Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Workforce strain and technology changes are reshaping how federal financial management gets done. That's affecting everything, from daily decisions to long-term accountability across agencies. Here to share more about the future of federal financial management are Ann Ebberts, CEO of the Association of Government Accountants, and Rich Brady, CEO of the Society of Defense Financial Management. Ann and Rich, it is so lovely to have both of you here together. Thank you for joining me.
It's great to be here.
And let me start with you. You have been looking closely at the federal financial management workforce over the last year, and it's been a doozy of a year. A lot of disruption, a lot of change. What stands out to you specifically about this sector, this segment of the workforce, and how it's been affected?
Well, thank you for having us this morning, and happy to answer this question. I think what stands out is the energy and the passion that the financial community have for their roles and their job. And I've talked to many people that have had tremendous cuts in their offices, going from maybe, somebody said a 12-person team to now they're down to 3 or 4 people. And he said what they were doing is really kind of doing a triage. You get the most important things done first or the most critical things done. But he said they're really working as a team and they're doing the best they can, kind of making no excuses for having people, having a smaller workforce, but really working on the priorities and serving the public, which is, that was their call to government service.
And it makes me wonder, as a former financial manager myself, this is a no-fail mission, right? There's a lot of stress here. The numbers have to be right. If you've taken a team down by 75%, how are they managing to balance that workload? How's morale holding up?
That's an interesting question. I think they're doing the best they can to keep each other supported. And they're, I've talked to team leaders that say, they give people some levity and some grace. If somebody's got to just walk out of the room, take a breath, and then come back in and then get back down to work. But they're working longer days. I mean, they feel like they really need to get the work done, because in many cases, what they're doing is passed on to somebody else. I mean, so they're creating a product that others may be using. So they don't want to be negatively impacting somebody else's role either. So I applaud the workforce. I really do. They're focused on the mission. They're working in government because they want to work in government.
Rich, there's no bigger organization here than the Defense Department. How are you seeing this show up in the workforce there?
Yeah, thank you, Terry. I would echo what Ann is saying, in that, if you even look a little further back, past the last year, most agencies, and particularly within the Department of Defense, they were in the throes of digital and financial transformation, updating old systems, legacy systems, modernizing them, working toward the audit when all of these changes took place. So there was already a lot of stress on the workforce. And just as an example, for the Marine Corps to get to its first clean audit opinion 3 years ago, there were a lot of manual processes that were in place. So it took a lot of labor and manpower to do that. And that's still being worked on as we speak, as they've achieved their third clean audit opinion now. But to Ann's point, there is a lot of stress on the workforce. That's one of the number one things that we hear from our members, and many of them, even a year ago, most offices weren't 100% manned. They maybe were 75, 80% manned. So you put the reductions on top of that, you're talking about offices that are maybe only 60 to 70% manned right now, or have the workforce that they are required to have, yet still have all of the requirements, the day-to-day operational stewardship requirements, in addition to the financial and digital transformation that's taking place.
And Rich is mentioning automation especially. What are you seeing kind of across the non-defense financial workforce? Is AI making a difference here in terms of alleviating workload or minimizing workload? Are there specific skills that financial managers are acquiring now to help deal with, the modern demands?
Great question. Let me answer the skills piece first, because I think There are some people that are kind of working on their own at home to try to figure out how do I learn more about AI? I mean, there's no time to take a break and go to a class. So some are kind of, learning while they're working and exploring and experimenting. And I think if there were courses available, kind of shortened, focused ones that could help them with specific kinds of things that they're working on at their office, I think that would be incredibly well received. But like I said, others are exploring some on their own, or they're talking and communicating with others in other agencies that may be further ahead and sharing best practices and ideas. And that's where I really applaud this community is they do reach out to their colleagues in other agencies, because if you've been to two agencies, you've only been to two agencies. There's no cookie cutter response or practice.
Rich, obviously a key tenet in SDFM is credentialing and training. How have you adjusted your curriculum? How have you adjusted the credentials to take advantage of this moment?
Yeah, great question. So from the beginning, since I came on board here at SDFM almost 5 years ago now, there has been an ask for more credentials, more certifications, primarily in the area of data analytics and digital tools. Our actual first step into this area was a new certification on healthcare, which we've previously spoken about, given the kind of explosive growth in the Defense Health Program and Defense Health Agency. That was the first one, but we are looking at other areas, including data analytics, fiscal law, even. Some of the basics. It kind of gets back to what does the workforce need in terms of training? Well, they still need what we like to call the basic blocking and tackling of defense financial management or federal financial management. They still need the fiscal law training, the budget formulation training, the basic accounting. But they also need the advanced training on top of that, data analytics, forecasting, scenario planning, the use of AI. The real question, which Ann was talking about, is where's the time for it? You can't have a short course necessarily in fiscal law, a 1-day course, and the size of the GAO Red Book. It's enormous, and there's a lot to cover there. So that's probably a 3 to 5 day course at a minimum, but it's difficult to carve out the time necessary for those type of courses that the workforce needs.
Rich Brady is CEO of the Society of Defense Financial Management, and Ann Ebberts is CEO of the Association of Government Accountants. And let me come back to you. Enterprise resource management is a topic that often winds its way into the financial management workforce. The Trump administration's taken a slightly different take on this topic. Where is AGA on ERM?
Interesting that you bring ERM up. We've been working closely for the last several years with the Association for Enterprise Risk Management, so AFIRM. And in fact, they have just joined forces with us. And so we're kind of absorbing that as an organization. I think somewhat in response to the move away from a focus on enterprise risk management. But I think risk management is still going to be a component of management and oversight. And bringing in AFIRM into AGA really kind of, I think, strengthens our organization to make sure that we are still looking broadly at how we define and how we look at financial management. I mean, risk is key. There are lots of processes and approaches to managing risk in organizations, and a lot of it is about communication. And I think that will continue.
Are you still seeing agencies take an active strategic approach to ERM, or have they sort of set it aside for a while?
I don't know that it's set aside. I think it may be a lower priority, and there may be not specific teams focused just on enterprise risk management. I think it's really everybody's business, and it should be in the financial community. So I think that's a way to continue to move forward and not just toss those good practices to the side because it's not a priority for this government.
And Rich, when we speak about risk, ERM in defense, but you also mentioned audit risk and some other things. I know DOD has a strategy there. How are you seeing that roll out?
Yeah, no, great point on risk ERM, and really it's ties to internal controls as well. I would say it has been somewhat of a back burner issue, but it's coming to the forefront again because there's a recognition that enterprise risk management, internal controls, there's a direct tie to that and audit sustainability. So obviously the department is working toward a clean audit opinion, but once they get that, they have to be able to sustain it. And the easiest way, the best way to sustain that is through proper controls set up in place early on in the process. So I think that we're going to see what I'm hearing from senior leaders in the department is bringing ERM internal controls from the back burner back to the front burner.
And Ann, as we think about the future, how are your two organizations here working together on the future state of the financial workforce?
I love that question. Rich and some of his folks and my team have met recently about how do we do just that? How do we work more closely together? And what's interesting is folks that attend Rich's events at SDFM and those that attend AGA events, in many cases, they've gone to both. I mean, so we have a lot of cross-pollination, I think, of our members as well as our attendees. And frankly, they can all, even if somebody's listening to someone who's in a civilian agency, you can still learn from them. There's, I can't imagine Rich saying, well, our folks only listen to people and take on board information that comes from a uniformed person. It's like, it's not the case. I think people are willing to share best practices. There's been cross-pollination between, the DoD looking towards some of the larger civilian agencies. You were talking about getting a clean opinion. We have a lot of civilian agencies that are large and complex and have been able to achieve that. So I think the more DoD and the civilian agencies share best practices and speak together and really look at as we are leaders of government, I think we'll make a lot more progress that way.
And Rich, next initiatives for SDFM?
Yes, so as you know, we've transitioned to our new DFMIs, our Defense Financial Management Institutes. We moved away from the single annual event, our PDI, and now we're holding a series of events throughout the year. And so we want to get out to where our members are and bring the content to them, the education, training, and certification, in addition to all the networking opportunities as well. So we kicked that off this year and are looking to expand it into 2027.
I've been speaking with Ann Ebberts. She is the CEO of the Association of Government Accountants, and Rich Brady is CEO of the Society of Defense Financial Management. It's lovely to see you both. Thanks so much for joining me together.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.